Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. My name's Stephen Fitzsimon, and today I'm very lucky to be joined by Riley Jane Dickie, one of our portfolio managers from the office.
Hi, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming in. So today we wanted to look at the journey of a tenancy through the eyes of a tenant and help out the renters, as I should be calling them now, through that journey, give them some tips that are going to be able to assist them in making sure that they've got smooth, ongoing matters.
Yeah.
Where's it start for you?
Yeah, look, I've been renting since I was 15 years old. I moved out of home very early to move overseas to pursue my ballet career.
Right.
So securing a property at that age was, as you can imagine, incredibly tough, having no rental history, only mum and dad's word that I knew how to keep my room clean and do dishes. So it started really young for me and pretty much been renting ever since. I'm now 24, so coming on 10 years of being a renter.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think in my role, I'm very much experienced in both sides of the realm of being a renter, looking after the renters, and then hopefully going on to buy in the next few years and understanding the landlord side of things.
But that's like an insight that not all property managers have got, in that they've come in. Some of them are quite young, otherwise they're still with mum and dad.
Yeah.
Alternatively, they went from mum and dad into owning their own property, and so they skipped that journey. So having that exposure, I'm sure, helps in your relationships with a tenant.
For sure. I think I can relate to them a lot more. I've gone through the ups and downs of trying to get somewhere and not getting anything, of having having the unfortunate experience of not having a good property manager or a landlord. So I think I can really relate to tenants or renters, on a very personal level.
Yeah, well, you and me together with the renters tenants thing, so that's
still
good.
Getting my head around it.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is we've got. You said something that I want to just expand on. You might have a bad property manager and or landlord, and I think that's a fascinating thing to explore, because I think you can be right. You might get a dud of either of those, and that's going to impact you negatively in your tenant experience side of things. Is there any way that you can prevent that?
Knowing your legislation.
Okay. So, but they can still be a dud landlord, but at least you know your rights.
Exactly. So the thing is that when you sign a lease agreement, the tenant renter, get used to that, is not the only person signing on to that agreement. The rental provider themselves is agreeing to terms and conditions too, that they are obliged to look after you in that property.
Let's look at it from a basic term.
Yeah.
You're paying $500-$600 a week for the right to live in that property. You're agreeing that I'll pay the rent, I'll look after the property. You've got to look after the property, keep it well maintained,
exactly,
and allow me the quiet enjoyment of it.
Yes.
So that's sort of a basic way of looking at it. And so when you then expand on that, how do you recommend that a tenant knows their rights?
Yeah, look, I think consumer affairs is fantastic. It's a fantastic tool for renters. It's also a fantastic tool for property managers as well, because the legislation is ever changing. It changes all the time. There's always new T's and C's being added, new loopholes, and being educated on that front is number one. But your lease agreement is going to cover all of the most basic things that you need to know. So even though you don't get that lease agreement until you've been offered the property, you can still find templates on these online and study up on what you should be expecting from your landlord or from your property manager when you're in that agreement.
Right. So if we go back, so consumer affairs, accessing their information is all Google?
Yeah, all Google, all completely free. You can download so much on there. It's not just for real estate, it's for anything a consumer in Australia would need.
Yeah.
And the information they have on there is fantastic. I've been working in property management for several years now, and I still use it on the daily.
Yeah. So fully comprehensive, detailed information, Consumer Affairs Victoria.
Very much so.
Renting, et cetera, search
easy to navigate, easy to use.
So that's a great sort of starting point. Now you're talking about leases, obviously. Do you see, Because like I've been doing this a little bit longer than you.
Yeah. No.
We're a similar age. But the way I look at it is back in the day, the lease, you could just add in terms and throw in what you wanted, and you'd hope that the tenants would pay attention. Now, that's tightened right up with the new legislation, but I would assume that there's probably still the poor performers out there that aren't truly delivering on what they should be. So reading and understanding that lease is a great starting point.
100%. I think the number one thing I say when I offer a property to a renter, because I've been in the exact same position, you get the property, you're so excited. Wow, I beat all these people. I got it. It's been offered to me. Lease agreement comes through. I have to sign this as quick as possible. Otherwise, they're going to give it to someone else. And I've been that person before, and it's burned me later down the track when I haven't actually read what's in there. So I think the most important piece of information I can give to both rental provider and renter is don't rush into it. If you've been offered the property, we're going to give you a few hours, 24 hours to read this lease agreement and ask any questions you have. If you fail to do that, and if you fail to ask questions, like we want you to ask questions, that's what we're educated on, is this lease agreement, this Residential Tenancy Act. We want you to ask questions, because if you don't and you've signed your name on that dotted line, that's a legal contract. It can't be amended without the other party being agreeable to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, best piece of advice is when you get that lease agreement, slow down, read it. If you're a first-time home buyer who's wanting to put your property on the market to be for rent, ask your property manager, can I see a copy of a lease agreement so I can understand exactly what it is that I need to deliver on my end of this agreement?
Good advice. Good advice. So then you're asking them to do something which is so unnatural now, because every app we download, every new gym that we sign up to, we just go, yeah, I've read it. Right?
Yeah.
And,
have I read the terms and conditions?
No.
Yes, I have.
Yes, yeah. No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But this is one of those circumstances where this is a sort of a life education piece. It's a bit like, you don't say, yes, I've read the book on how to drive a car and then get in a car and drive. You actually should be learning those road rules, and it should be an understanding for you, because it's a life lesson. So, okay, so we've got the leases. Okay, is there a next step before we collect the keys?
Yes. Well, next step is obviously arranging things for your move-in. So number one is you need to be prepared to pay your bond and first month's rent. Now, bonds under $900, legally, we can only ask you to pay 1 month in advance. Yep. That's very standard practice. New legislation states that if your first month's rent or if your weekly rent is over $900 per week,
yep,
the rental provider can actually request you pay a slightly larger bond, because you are moving into luxury property territory.
Gotcha. So 1 month's rent as bond plus 1 month's rent up front. Now, a lot of people get this wrong. 1 month's rent is 4 weeks.
No. And I got that wrong too. I remember asking my mum, well, I don't understand why it's 1,304 when,
it's $300 a week.
300 times 4 is 1,200. And your rent is calculated per calendar month. That means that there is not a straight 4 weeks in every month.
Yep. That'd be 48 weeks in a year.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense. So the method that we use is, I can probably try and explain it the best I can, is that weekly rent times 52. Sorry,
yep.
no, sorry. Weekly rent divide by 7.
Yeah.
You're going to get your daily rent.
Yeah.
Daily rent times 365.
Yep.
You're going to get your annual rent, and then annual rent divide by 12 is your calendar month rent.
Round it up.
And that's how you find, and we do round it up to the highest,
next dollar,
the fullest number.
Yeah.
But that's a very common confusion that people get, because it can be, you see, if you're working with $300 per week, if you're thinking it's 300 times 4, you've got $1,200 there. So it's a big jump of $104.
Yeah. And you got to find that cash, and you want to be budgeting for it.
Exactly. You really need to be prepared to pay that, because a lot of people think that you're just meant to pay your bond, but you do. And most agencies will require you to make both transactions within 24 hours of being accepted.
Gotcha.
So it's a big chunk of money to come out within 24 hours, and you do need to be prepared to do that.
Yeah. So save up before you go hunting.
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Definitely.
So now we've paid the bond and the rent. Is that we collect the keys?
Well, you're going to need to arrange your utilities. So,
okay. Yeah. Good.
Us as property managers, I know, speaking for MRE exclusively, we really look after our tenants. renters, my goodness. We really look after our renters in that when we send you through that congratulations welcome email, we're giving you absolutely everything you need. We're giving you, if you've got embedded networks, who those embedded networks are, how to contact them. If you're living in an apartment building, we're giving
So an embedded network, for those who don't know, is
Yes.
is like a centralized electricity provider to a building, of which you then buy the electricity off from each apartment. You don't have a choice of provider.
Exactly. And most newer buildings will have embedded electricity and gas. Usually the internet provider is, you can choose whatever, but there are some rare cases I've dealt with where you do have to go with that one provider. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally don't see it as a good or bad thing. I think they've chosen for it to be embedded for a reason and it works for them. So that's one thing you're going to need to look into is your utilities, because your rent will not cover, or for us, when we send out leases, your rent will not cover your utilities. This is a separate cost that you need to be ready to pay. A common question I get asked is, how much is water? How much is electricity? And
how long is a piece
how
of
long
string?
is a piece of string? Exactly. Yeah. It's so different for everyone. If you're not using a embedded network, highly recommend going on like Compare the Market or something like that, where you can see a bunch of different providers and what they do.
There's the government website too.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many options out there. So it's just another cost you need to be prepared for.
All right, so that's done. You then collect the keys?
Almost. You need to often contact your building manager to arrange lift access.
Ah, right.
So if you're living in an apartment building and you're on 2nd, 3rd to the 58th floor, your lift is going to need to have covers put up, and you need to have your building manager sign off.
Bit going on.
There's a lot going on. It's a big process, but like I said, in that email, it's not just a copy and paste from the last. It's a very tailored email.
Right. So read the email.
So
I've got to read a lease and an email.
You've got a lot to read.
Oof.
It's a big process, but it's the next 12 months of your life, essentially.
Minimum.
Minimum.
You could be there for years.
Exactly. So
I've done that. I've organised the move in.
Yes.
I've contacted the building manager.
Yeah.
Then do I collect the
You can
keys?
come collect your keys. But a common question I get is, can we get the keys before our lease starts? And it's a big no. You're not allowed, and it's not because we don't trust you. It is an insurance thing. Your lease agreement does not start until XYZ date. We cannot hand over keys until that date. I know you're excited. You want to get in, move furniture in, but
want to start there at 7 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For insurance reasons, we are not allowed to hand over keys until the exact date that your lease agreement starts.
Gotcha. So I've got the keys.
You've got the keys.
I'm at the agents.
Yeah.
Do I just take the keys and go?
They're going to ask you to sign some documents, and it's essentially like a condition report. So 50-50 these days as to whether or not your key form will be a paper document. Most of the time, now that we've moved to an online portal, you will get sent an automated online PDF version of your key form, and you are required to sign that as a part of your condition report.
Okay.
But sometimes it will be in paper just when you collect them from the agency, just to confirm that, yes, I did collect them on these days.
Yes.
These are the keys I got.
Yes.
From there, you're free to head off to the property and start moving in.
Right. So we've moved into the property, or do we do something with the condition report?
Yes. So on 8 a.m. on the day of your move-in, you're going to receive your condition report.
Yes.
And this is probably even more important, if not, as important as your lease agreement.
So this is the gold bit. If you haven't been, if you've tuned out, tune back in.
Tune back in. A lot of people get burnt in their condition report. It's a lengthy process. It's not something that can be done in 5 minutes.
So would you recommend, if this is such a lengthy and important thing, would you recommend moving in the day after you got the condition report, or how long does it take for you to check the condition report?
As mundane as the task of completing your condition report is, once you get the keys and you go to the property, you should be starting that right away.
So it's not get the truck.
No, you don't want to be moving any furniture in, because us as property managers have an obligation to complete this condition report as thoroughly as possible. MRE, we're slightly different to other agencies in that all of ours are done via video, which is really innovative. I love doing it. Other agencies often use pictures, which is fantastic. I just really like that the video is a lot more thorough. We get to go up into every nook and cranny, every scuff and scratch on the wall.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to write what we're seeing in the written report.
Yes.
It's then the tenant's responsibility, the renter's responsibility, when they arrive at that property that very first time, before they move in any furniture,
Yes.
to complete the condition report. And it's not for us as property managers.
What do they have to do to complete it?
To complete it, they essentially need to tick yes or no, confirming what we've said on the condition report. So say if I've gone up to the sink in the kitchen and I've said, yep, it's spotless, no scratches, tap is intact, 1-time drainer plug provided.
Yeah.
And the renter goes up and they say, oh, actually there is a lot of scratches in there, or it's really dirty, there's no drainer plug. That's your chance to say, that's exactly what's happening.
So you're going through it, you confirm that, and you've got a certain time that you've got to get that back to.
You have 7 days to get it back to us.
Yep.
We will send it out 8 a.m. on the day of your lease the day of your lease commencing.
But you should have it before you go get the keys.
Yes, yeah. So because we don't open till 8:30 in the morning, you will have it before you get to the property.
Gotcha.
If you don't return it within this 7-day period, that's you've agreed to everything we've said.
Right.
So that's why it is so important, because when we go to do, jumping the track a bit, but when we go to do your exit inspection, if you haven't said that the drainer plug for the sink wasn't provided and then it's not there, but we've said it was there,
you're stuck.
It's our word against yours against ours. It's
and you've not bothered to say that it wasn't there. Okay.
Exactly.
So I get you. So they've done that and then they've moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's problems that they pick up on, because a lot of the time when people move into properties, the last tenant didn't care about the fact that the blind in the second bedroom didn't go down properly, or minor little issues like that. This tenant's moved in and found that. What should they do? What's the nice, polite, correct way that is also protecting their rights to let the agent know about maintenance that may be required?
Yeah, the best way to report maintenance, we do have a portal that we, when our tenants collect their keys and everything, they get given a magnet that's a QR code to our portal to report maintenance.
Okay.
That's fantastic, but the best way and probably the quickest way to get maintenance actioned is take a photo and a video of the issue, send it to your property manager and say, hey, I've picked these up. They're not urgent. I'd love to get them done. And we will, of course, raise that with the owner for you. If it's urgent or not, we're going to put it forward to the owner. That's our obligation to you, that we're going to look after you in the property.
Perfect. So let's take that blind, right? So let's say it's not an urgent repair because it goes down, but it just is a bit on wonky or something like this. So that it's operational. How long does the owner have to fix that?
He has 14 days to give us a response, essentially. He's not obligated to fix it, but if he's not going to fix it, he needs to give the renter the option to be able to do it themselves and seek a reimbursement for it. But the owner has 14 days to do that. If it was an urgent repair, they have 7 days to get it done, but we are pushing to get that done for you. And
it's a push to get it done immediately.
Exactly.
So that makes sense in terms of the timelines. And basically, regardless of whether or not the agent's got a portal or anything, videos and photos, put it in writing, communication via email so that it's recorded and transparent. Okay, so let's move on to sort of down the track in terms of the tenancy, during the tenancy. Routine inspections?
Yes.
Right?
So,
what's your thoughts on those, and how do you sort of manage those with the agents?
Yeah, so your first routine inspection will take place after 3 months. And then from there…
At MRE.
At MRE, we do the first one after 3 months. And it's just to kind of see how you're settling in, give the owner an update, a good glimpse early into your tenancy of how everything's looking. And then from there on, there'll be 6 months after each other.
Got you.
In a routine inspection, we're not particularly looking at your way of living. We're just looking if there's, holes in the walls. We're checking in with you for maintenance. We're really seeing the bigger issues in terms of how you're living. If it's a bit messy, we're not going to say anything about that. We're looking the broader picture. Is the oven working? Is the oven clean? Are the appliances being kept in good condition?
Gotcha.
Because, if your couch has a hole in it, that's not our issue.
Yeah. So don't panic about them.
Exactly. Don't panic.
But just think, okay, the function of this is to make sure that the property is okay.
Exactly.
And so if your stuff isn't perfect, that's okay, as long as the owner's stuff and the property as itself is there. That's what we're doing when we're coming to look.
100%.
We're coming to look that there's no maintenance that's required, that there's no significant damage that's occurred, there's that everything's ticking along okay in the property.
Exactly.
Okay.
we love nothing more than we can tell when a renter has gone out of their way to present the property really nicely for us. But the main things in a routine inspection you need to look after is the appliances in the property, your oven, your stove, your showers, your exhaust fans.
Yeah.
The things are your AC units. And if you don't know how to clean your AC unit, we have videos on our website that show how to do this.
That's right. Yeah, there's the maintenance sort of tips. And
exactly.
that's another one of those things. Like a lot of these things are pretty basic standard things, cleaning a filter in an aircon unit or cleaning the build-up of soap scum off a shower.
Yes, big one, yes.
YouTube helps you with that. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But it's also showing respect to the owner in that
Definitely.
they've given you a property and you're keeping it in good repair.
100%.
Okay, so perfect. So we're in there, we're living in the property, we're enjoying the property. Now let's come to the time of moving out.
Yes.
So you give notice to an agent that you're going to be moving out.
You do.
In terms of preparing for the final inspection, because that's the thing that the tenants, you hear, oh no, the agent's going to do the final. I hope I get on my bond back. How can they sort of prepare for that to get their bond back faster?
Yeah.
And then to have a smooth exit from the tenancy?
Of course. Well, once you provide us your notice to vacate, and just backtracking slightly, if your lease is coming to an end, do not automatically assume that you're just going to be moving out at the end of your lease. You need to provide at least 28 days notice, with the 28th day falling on or after the expiry of your lease agreement that you are moving out.
Right. So you don't you don't just turn up at 12 months after you moved in and drop the keys back to the office.
No. So
gotcha. That's probably written in the lease.
That is written in your lease agreement.
I'm now understanding.
Indeed. Now, when you do provide your notice to vacate, us as MRE, we're going to send you a handbook on what we expect of the property when you're moving out. We're going to give you a list of cleaners we recommend. Keep in mind that cleaners do need to be booked quite well in advance.
Yep.
Just that their availability is quite tough.
Yes.
You may need some wiggle room to get things in and out. Now, your tenancy does not end until the day that you return keys to the property.
Gotcha.
So say if your lease was to end on, what's today, the 13th of March, 2024, but you don't return keys until the 16th of March, you're still legislatively, I'll say that word.
Near enough.
Yeah, near enough. You are required to pay rent right up until the day that you return keys. So it's really important to remember that when you are booking in your cleaner, if your lease ends on the 13th of March, you want to try and be getting them in on the 12th of March so you can have your keys back safe and sound on the day after that.
So big tip, invest in a cleaner recommended by the agent, because they're likely the ones that do a good job.
Definitely.
Therefore, when the agent goes there, if it's not clean, they're likely, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to go back to that cleaner and say, clean it properly, please. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. And then you go to the final inspection.
Yes. So we have 3 days after keys are returned to complete your final inspection.
Yep.
We will always give the renter a chance to attend with us.
Yeah, okay.
The renter is obliged to be there with us.
They're obliged to be, or they want to be?
Sorry, not obliged. They have the option
they
to be there with us. We give them the option to be there. And once we go to that final inspection, essentially it's like the condition report. We have a comparison of your condition report. Us as property managers, we watch the video that we took of the condition report before we go to your final inspection.
Yeah.
And we do a very, very thorough walkthrough of exactly what we're seeing. And best case scenario is there is nothing wrong, and we can go back to the owner and say 100% it's all great. But very, very often these days I'm finding that exactly what you said before, Steve, they're not investing in a good cleaner. Therefore, there's a lot of cleanliness issues, or, lights that are missing, and lights are a tenant's responsibility to replace. Everything that we pick up will have been noted in your lease agreement for what is considered reasonable and proportionate.
Right. So it's, again, if you read the lease agreement at the start, then you'll know what's coming at the end.
And as well as the handbook that, like the renter's handbook that we give when you provide your notice to vacate, that's got that what we expect from the renter when they return the property to us.
If the renter's done any accidental damage to the property, and it's evident, their mate came around and lent the chair back into the wall, and it's put a big gouge in the wall. It was a stupid thing. They'd had a few drinks, whatever, right? Should they tell the agent about that before they vacate, or they should do it? They should just sort of let it. It's going to be observed in the final. Yeah. But should they do anything about it, or should they just tell the agent about it? What do you advise there?
Yes, 100% transparency is key. If
Yep.
something was to happen in your property and you didn't tell us, we're going to have to claim that from your bond eventually because you haven't told us this is a damage that has been left there. If you tell me 4 weeks before you move out, this happened, I want to try and get a happy medium for both parties. I really appreciate your honesty. Can we come to some sort of resolution where, you know, the owner pays half and you pay the other half? Obviously, it doesn't always work that way, but your honesty will go a long way when it comes to refunding your bond and providing you a rental reference for your next property.
Oh yeah, rental references. That's a good one. So if the communication's good during a tenancy and you're upfront and honest when things go on, because life is life, things happen, and then you use one of the agent's recommended cleaners to make sure that you're avoiding that. Is there any other tip that you'd give on the vacat, other than booking the move out, because you'd have to do that with your building manager?
Yeah.
But okay, so we add that one in. But is there any other tip that you'd add on to the end there?
In terms of like receiving your bond
getting
back?
your bond back.
Yeah. Well, number one thing, we see this a lot these days, is renters are really keen to get their bonds back, which I understand because when you're moving out, you're often moving in somewhere else. That's another bond to pay. But if you go onto the RTBA and you try and claim the bond back yourself, it's a whole nother can of worms that you're opening. It's a lot trickier. So what you want to do is you want to trust that your property manager is having that discussion with the rental provider to refund your bond. If you start a tenant-initiated claim for your bond via the RTBA, essentially what happens is you are given us as rental providers and property managers are given 14 days to respond to that. If we don't respond to it, you get your bond back after 14 days. But if we do respond to it and say, yep, you're going to get your full bond back, but you now still have to wait 14 days because you've started this. That's an unhappy tenant. You can withdraw the claim. It's just a bit of back and forth. So as soon as
communication again.
It's communication. So as soon as that final inspection is done, I can speak for myself and MRE. I know our standard that we get that final inspection sent to the owner the exact same day we do it. And we are straight away having conversations of if there are repairs that need doing, if you have potentially damaged things, how are we going to go about this? Do we need to get your cleaner to reattend? Do we need quotes to have things repaired? We're not going to leave you in the dark. It's a very much a three-way conversation of, well, renter talks to me, I talk to rental provider. And we come to a resolution that way.
But communication. It's underlying throughout this entire thing.
100%.
Pick up the phone, talk to the agent, send the emails, respond to them, do all that sort of stuff, and the pathway will be smooth.
Definitely. 100%.
Riley, you've been amazing. Thank you for all of the information that you provided. Hopefully out there's a few tenants listening and learning now a few more things, a few more tricks to the trade.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. Cheers.